So, do you know what part of Eastern Turkey your family was from before they went to Syria?
I know my dad's side, they're from Sasun.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't think I know anything.
Um,
I don't know.
did your parents or grandparents ever tell you stories of the genocide?
I wouldn't remember because I was young probably, so I can't say anything about that.
Do you know why they left Sassoon though?
Because of the genocide. Well, the Turks were like deporting the people, so they had to leave and they moved to Syria. That's what happened.
And do you know which part of Syria they moved to?
Aleppo, to Halep. They moved to Halep and then I think they met each other there and then they got married and got children and that's how we were born.
Do you know anything about if it was difficult or not difficult to start a new life for themselves in Aleppo?
I mean, obviously, it was difficult to start from zero, from scratch, with nothing, in a different country, no one you know there. It had to be difficult, I would assume. But I don't. They didn't tell me anything.
Do you know what professions your grandparents had?
My grandfather, my mom's mother, was like a mechanic for big trucks. My dad's dad was he worked with the French government when they were in Syria. That's all I know. I don't know the details of it.
And did they live in a very Armenian community, your
Yeah,
grandparents?
the community, the Armenian community in Syria is pretty big. Like before the war, it was like I would say one of the biggest in outside of Armenia.
And do you know of any differences, or did your parents ever tell you, oh, now Aleppo's different, between their generation and your generation?
They haven't said anything about that. I wouldn't know. But it's definitely different. Since times are changing, it has to be different.
So, what did your parents do? What were their professions in Syria?
My dad was a civil engineer. My mom was an architect. But my dad didn't work in his profession. He was a merchant, like food merchant. So he worked in that. My mom, I don't think she worked. And yeah, that's it.
And so, what about you? So, growing up, you were born in which part of Aleppo?
Chef Taha.
And then, what was your day-to-day like? Did you go to Armenian school? Did you go to an Agoup afterwards?
I went to an Armenian school, but not the typical Armenian school. I went to Mkhitarian. Their center is in Venice, I think. I went there, so half of the class was like Arabs, the other half was Armenian. So, like, I'd like to believe that my Arabic is better than the rest, most of the people there. And where I grew up, all of our neighbors were Arabs and Muslims. So I grew up in that community. But I don't think it affected me much because I went to an Armenian school and then I went to an Agump. So yeah.
So, so, so your school was not all Armenian students?
Yeah, until I was 15, half of it was Arabs, who were Arabs. So
Why did non-Armenian students go to Armenian school?
they went, only I went, like we went to that school. Me and my brother and my sister too, we went to that school.
Oh, sorry, you didn't go to Armenian
I,
school?
it was an Armenian school.
Right, so I'm asking why, do you know why non-Armenians would go to an Armenian school?
I think they like it better than their schools because the education is better, the way they treat students is better, management is better, and there weren't many students. Like in class, we were maybe 22 students. Other schools, there were like 30 students and 5 different groups of classes. So I think people would prefer to go there over other kinds of school.
And why did your parents choose that school for you instead of a different Armenian school in the area?
I have no idea, honestly.
Do you know the differences between the different Armenian schools?
No. All I know is there were 2 big schools, Jamaran and Parekorzagan, and that was about it. There were other schools too, but I didn't know much about them.
And did you have friends in the other schools?
Not at first. After I started playing basketball, I met new people there, so that's why I made new friends.
How far were the schools from each other?
Aleppo wasn't that big of a city. like a car ride, I would say like 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe max.
And what was the curriculum like? Did you have Armenian class, language class, Armenian history
Yeah,
class?
we had Armenian like twice a week, I think, twice or three times a week. We had Armenian classes, and we had religion classes too, concerning Christianity and stuff. But that was about it. But the rest of the subjects were in Arabic. We weren't allowed to study them in Armenian.
So you had religion class, which was Armenian.
That was Armenian too.
And then you had an Armenian history class that was in Arabic.
No, in Armenian.
In Armenian. And Armenian language class was in Armenian.
Yeah.
Obviously. I could do a language class here. But so the non-Armenians also learned all those subjects?
Yeah, they know Armenian too. Like I have friends, they speak maybe better than me. Arab friends.
And did you ever talk about what it was like for them to be learning Armenian history and language and?
Not really. They sometimes complain that why do we have to study this? It's more subjects. They were kids, we were young, so we didn't want to study. I would understand, but other than that, no, they wouldn't say anything.
And religion class, they had to go to that too?
If they're Christians, yeah, they studied it.
And if not?
If not, they studied the Muslim history of religion and stuff.
Okay.
Like separate book.
So the Armenian school had different classes for different religions?
The school I went to, yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't have, like, we had maybe one or two Muslim students. That was it, not more.
The rest were Arab Christians?
Yeah.
Or non-Armenian?
Yeah.
And would you say that your friendships with the non-Armenians were the same as your Armenian friendships?
Yeah, I like them as much.
Were there any differences between your day-to-day lives?
Between us and them?
Yeah.
Like, not really. Like, when we used to fight a lot, like Armenians versus non-Armenians, but it was kind of a joke, nothing serious. That was about it, nothing else. We used to hang out, go out, that kind of stuff, regular.
And then what was your after-school life like? You went to play basketball, you said?
Yeah.
Was that with an Armenian team?
Yeah, it was with the AGBU's team. And that's why I went to their school after, not to Jamaran, because my friends were there, so I decided to go to that school. After 3 years I spent there, I graduated. And then I went to university 1 year. I was gonna go to dentistry, but it was like, it's with marks in Syria. You have to get a certain amount of GPA to get into the school. I got like 1 mark less, so I didn't go to dentistry. So I went to another subject. I did engineering for a year, and then I came here.
So before we get to you coming here,
Okay.
what? Sorry, I have a lot of questions, but when we do it in Armenian, I have time to think because the translator talks to me while I think. But now it's in English, I have to think more quickly.
I can wait.
I was going to ask you. Besides basketball, what else did you do after school?
After school, like I used to do everything with school, during school. Like I did a lot of stuff. I went to music classes, swimming classes, drawing classes, singing classes, karate classes, kung fu classes, English classes, computer classes. Like I did a lot of stuff. Like I was never like empty, like had nothing to do. I was never in that condition.
And do you have siblings?
Yeah, an older brother and a younger sister.
And did they go through the same steps as you, the same school? And
my sister, yes, she went to Mkhteran until she was 15 and then went to the AGPU. But my brother, after he finished school in Mkhteran, he went to Jamaran. Because my cousin's there and he has friends there, so he decided to go there.
And so it seems like you met the Armenians from all over Aleppo. Did you
Yes.
also interact with any Armenians from other cities, like Kesab or Damascus?
Not really. From Kesab, we used to go there a lot. Damascus, I know some people from Damascus too, but not that much. I don't think wait, no, Dakamishti. I don't know if you've heard about it. Like my parents are my dad's side is originally from there. So I know some Armenians there too, but that's about it.
Did you feel there was any difference between the Armenians from different parts of Syria?
I mean, of course there was, because it's different, like, environments growing up, so you develop a different character depending on where you're coming from. There were differences, but it didn't affect anything.
What would you say some of the differences were? Could you think of any?
Not really. I mean, outside of Aleppo and Damascus, their Armenian wasn't that strong. They didn't have a big community, so they were getting a bit lost. That's that was, I think, the biggest difference we had. Nothing else.
So you think that in Aleppo, preserving the Armenian identity was something that maybe came with ease?
Yeah, because we were a lot. We had like special schools. None other than Armenians can go there. I think it was stronger and better.
Why do you think it was important to the community to preserve this Armenian identity?
Because we don't want to get lost. Like already we're few. Our number is few. So if we lose our Armenian, like our traditions, our culture, what would that make us? So we have to preserve it.
So in your opinion, and from what you've learned growing up, what do you think are the elements that allow someone to preserve the Armenian identity or a community to preserve it?
Having a society of their own with no outsiders, only Armenians. I think that's the biggest factor that helps. Not the schools, not the other stuff, but having the society of only Armenians. I would think that would be it.
But you didn't have that in Aleppo, did you?
We did.
But even in your school, you had Arabs in your class.
That was one school though. We have, I think, maybe 4 or 5 schools that are only Armenians. No one else goes there. But I don't know why we went there. It's just a coincidence.
So, in a way, the community exists if you want to be able to go there.
Yeah.
If you don't, you can
Yeah,
go
you can
somewhere
just
else.
go somewhere else, exactly.
And tell me a little bit about like what it was like on Armenian holidays or on the Genocide Commemoration Day. What was it like in the city?
Like the city wasn't affected at all. Because like it's obviously not a non-Armenian and non-Christian country, so they wouldn't care that much. But they gave us our holidays, but they gave us our freedom to do whatever we want. Like in the community, we did everything almost they do here. We go to the graveyards, we do like badaraks and stuff. So it's all the same, but not as big as it happens here.
Did you go to church in Syria?
Yeah, like the Mukhtaran school was like a Catholic school, so I went to a badarak every week almost.
But you went to Badarak, or did you go to the Catholic version of Badarak?
The Catholic version of the badarak. It's all the
and-
same, I think.
Sorry, what have you also gone to an apostolic Armenian church?
Yeah,
And did you feel any difference between the two?
yeah. I was used to the Catholic one. The apostolic one was a bit weird for me, because all I saw as a child growing up was the Catholic one. So, but it was still the same. I think it's all Christianity. It's all the same.
Did any Armenian ever treat you differently for going to the Catholic?
No,
church?
not really. They would just joke at first, but that was it. Nothing more.
And do you still go to church here in Armenia?
Not as much, but sometimes I do.
And at the Catholic church?
Just a random church. I don't even know what church is what.
Yeah. How many churches were there in Syria?
Oh.
Armenian churches.
I think 4, maybe 5. I don't want to say a definite number because I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, I meant to ask in Aleppo, not Syria.
Yeah, in Aleppo,
Okay.
again, 4 or maybe 5. Maybe even more, maybe less. I wouldn't be sure.
We were speaking about preserving Armenian identity. Would you say that you'll feel more Syrian or Armenian or both?
I would say, like, I feel more Syrian. I don't want to lie. Because I was born there, I grew up there. So I would like to think, like, I owe that country something as much as I owe Armenia something. But I feel more Syrian than Armenian. I'm not going to lie about that. And I get criticized about this a lot whenever I say this to people.
Why? What do they say?
Like, they say you're Armenian, this is your motherland and stuff. Like, I don't think they would understand. Because I explain, like, I was born there and I grew up there, my everything is there. My family, my friends, they just don't understand. Just get judged.
Who do you say this to? Like, who?
So once I said it to a taxi driver, he was pissed.
What does that mean to be Syrian?
I don't get the question.
Like when you said you feel more Syrian, right? So to you, like, what makes you feel Syrian? What does it mean to feel Syrian to you?
I don't think I can put that to words. It's something I feel. Like I feel I belong there more than I belong here. That's just a feeling I have.
Do you think that you belong more to the Armenian community in Syria, or just to all communities in Syria?
I belong to the Armenian community in Syria. Let me just rephrase what I said about being Syrian. I feel more Syrian Armenian than I feel Armenian. Let's put it that way.
That makes sense. Your other answer made sense too, but what differences do you see between the Syrian Armenians back in Syria, your community back there, and the Syrian Armenian community here in Armenia? Even though it's mostly the same people, do you feel?
I feel like almost everyone who came here is changed in some way, their personality, but they're mostly the same. But I feel they're more like, I don't know, I don't think I can explain it. I don't think I can explain what I want.
That's okay. You want to say it in Armenian, or still you can answer?
Like, I don't actually get the question, like
Yeah.
how the differences between.
Like, okay, so you had your Syrian Armenian community
Yeah.
in Syria, and now you have a Syrian Armenian community here in Armenia, right? Your friends are Syrian Armenians. You guys kind of made your community.
Like,
So is there a difference between your community back in Syria?
I don't think I can answer this question because I don't usually hang out with Syrian Armenians. Since my school, I study in English. I could say there's no one from Syria there from my old community. So I made new friends from outside, U.S., Lebanon, or Jordan, India. So I don't have much connections with Syrian Armenians. So I don't think I would be able to give a correct answer to this question.
There's no correct answer, but
Like not a correct answer, but like I don't think I would be able to answer this question. I don't think it would be right.
So I guess I've asked most of the identity questions. Do you have anything else to say about the Armenian community in Syria?
Not really.
Did you ever meet with other diaspora communities, other Armenian diaspora communities while you were living in Syria?
In Syria, no. Well, when I came here, I met a lot. Over there, I didn't meet anyone.
In a sense, in Syria, you were around so much diversity. You had Arab Christians, Arab Muslims, I'm sure other minorities. And here, there's not so much diversity. So how is that for you, leaving such diversity?
Like I think living in a diversity was better because you learn more stuff. You have more friends. Like they're from different places, so they have different habits, different cultures. So you learn from all of that. You take it upon you. I don't know. It just kind of grows on you, having different kinds of people around you.
And do you feel that's lacking here?
Yeah. It is.
But have you found diversity in other ways? For example, yes, many people are Armenian here, but there's Armenians from France, from England, from America. Like, is that a kind of diversity that you can also learn from?
Yeah, that is. But it's back to my point. They're all Armenians. They're not like different people. It's still a diversity, but not the way it was back there.
Can you think of anything concrete that you learned, like, from the diversity back home? Of course, there's like, you learn just by being friends with people, but could you think of anything concrete or specific to say?
No.
That's okay. So, what year in school were you when the war started?
I was in my first year of no. I was 11th grade. I was 17, I think. Oh wait, I was 16 when it started, but it wasn't in Aleppo. It was in like whenever it started first. But then when I was 11th grade, the first like bombing happened when the Armenian guy died. I don't know if you've heard about it. I was 11th grade, and then things started going to worse from there.
Can you tell me about who this Armenian guy is that died?
I think he was Hayrabidian. I don't remember his name. Yeah, he was cousins with a classmate of mine. That's all I know.
But what's the story? Do you know the
Like
story?
he was at a military center. I think they bombed the place with a car. I think he was one of the victims of that incidents.
Not in Aleppo?
It was in Aleppo. It was the first time in Aleppo something happened.
Okay. And before something happened in Aleppo, what did you understand was happening?
I thought it was a revolution just to like take the president down. That's what everybody thought. And then it turned out it was something else.
When you said you thought it was a revolution, what made you think that? What were you seeing on TV or in the newspapers? What were you hearing from friends and family?
Friends and family, nothing, but from the news and stuff, like people didn't want the president anymore. They wanted to bring him down. They wanted the new president because he was the president of people that were a minority in Syria. That's why they didn't want him. I thought it was that first, and then slowly when it developed, it got to this. I think it's something else, and everybody knows that by now.
What do you think it is?
I can't say specifically, but I think it's a war for territory, oil and gas, that kind of war.
And how did it affect your community in Aleppo?
Oh, it affected it a lot. Like we were many, but now there's barely 3,000 people there. I think everyone just left. They didn't want to stay there and die for nothing. For a civil war.
Did you have friends who were in the military?
No, I had like some cousins, but they're still alive, thankfully, and that was about it.
And did you get to talk to them at all or hear from their family about what it was like for them?
Yeah, it was hell being in the military. It was really bad. Like the details I can't remember. All I know is it was very bad, and yeah, everyone wanted out. They didn't want to stay.
How did your daily life change, if at all?
It was slower, more preservative. We couldn't do much. There was always the fear of like dying while you were walking. And there was the fear of the opposing side getting into Aleppo, like they taking over Aleppo. But that was it. I don't think there's anything else.
Were you able to get food and water? Was there electricity?
That was the difficult part of the war. Like till now, there's no normal electricity. Water is better now, but when I was there, we used to like take big gallons, go down, fill it up with water, and bring it up. That's what we used to do. Electricity, we didn't have electricity. There were like people selling electricity on the streets. They would just buy big generators and sell you. In the winter, we didn't have means of heating. We had no power, no gas, so people just found different ways to heat up their houses. And what else? Water was a big problem when we didn't have water. Like, it was the worst. It was worse than electricity. And what else? Food was a problem just for a short while, like a month, maybe a month or two. But that was about it. Yeah, I think that's it.
So, you said that the community was worried that the opposition would come into Aleppo. So was the city guarded by the government forces?
It was, but still, other cities were guarded too, and they took over it.
And how was there still the fear of being shot and as you were walking if the community was being guarded?
Oh, like when the fighting happens, random bullets go up. So when those bullets come down, there was the fear of that, and the missiles they threw. That was the thing I was talking
Who
about.
was they?
The opposition, the Free Army or Daesh or Nusra, those people.
And did you know anybody who was hit or?
Oh yeah, a lot of people. One of my relatives died, a distant relative. Two of my distant relatives died. A young girl died once. A lot of people, like I can't count them right now if I want to, but a lot of people died, like for nothing. random, just a bullet or a missile.
And every time you heard, how did you hear about these things? Through word of mouth, or was there a media running, a newspaper?
The media and mouth to mouth.
What was the media like at this time? Who was reporting?
Like just random pages on Facebook. People like they make pages and they publish the news they hear. That's how we heard about it and stuff.
During this time, did you see the community come together in a different way
Yeah.
than before?
Like in school, like at 11th grade, I had friends, and after that they all left. But this war, like there were still some people left. The war brought us closer. Like I would say, I'm closer to my friends now than before the war. Like it just brought us all together. You know who your friends are, when who's there for you when you need them. The war has done that to us.
And you mean it brought you together emotionally, but also like physically, were you guys all doing things together, like helping people get water and helping other community members?
That too. Like before the war, we didn't know the neighbors or the neighbors on the street. Like after the war, it was like all together, like a small community of its own. It was like that. Everyone helps each other to get what they want. We help them, they help us. It was like that.
And you're talking about your community in Vilat?
Yeah, like my street, Sheikh Taha.
Okay.
It was like that.
Like what were some things that you did to help, or that others
Let's
wanted
say
to do?
help him get water, or help him move stuff, like basic stuff that didn't usually happen before the war.
And are many of those people that you knew still in Syria, or have most of them left?
Yeah, most of them are there. My family's still there. Like it's better now, still not perfect, but it's way better than before. I can say that.
Did you know at which times maybe like the missiles were going to come, or did you know like when not to be on the street?
It was random. You and your luck.
And I was going to ask you. Oh, were there any aid organizations in your town or in Aleppo?
Yeah, the AGBU helped a lot. The other Armenian communities helped a lot. There was the Red Cross. There were like a lot of communities. There were like Christian communities too that helped. Like help was coming from outside, food, money. Yeah, they helped a lot. It was like a refuge to us. That AGBU I used to go to, like at the time that there was no electricity in Syria, like everybody would go there, like the community of AGBU, and they would just do everything there. It was hot during winter. It was warm. They would warm it up. Like you could use the electricity, charge your phones and do other stuff too. Like it was like a second home to us.
And it was open for everyone?
Yeah, it's for everyone.
But mostly Armenians went?
Yeah, mostly Armenians went.
During the war, do you think there was any divide? Maybe was it more divisive or less divisive between Armenians and non-Armenians?
It was less divisive, I would think. Because like, after all, we're all human. We have to help each other, so it was less. It was bigger. The difference between the two communities was bigger before the war, because like everyone had a life of its own with no problems, so they didn't need each other. But during the war, like obviously everyone needs each other, so they got closer. The diversity was less.
Was there anyone like in your town that you couldn't trust, or that most people you know?
No, I don't think so.
Did you still participate in like basketball and the other activities that you were doing when the war started?
Like when it started, yeah, but when the really bad stuff started happening in Syria, like you couldn't get out of the house. Like I remember I paid for my gym internship membership. I went for one day. The next day, like you see helicopters going up, missiles being fired, shots. Like no one left the house for a week at that time. That happened.
What was that? What was going on?
Like it started in Syria, like the war in the streets, everywhere. Like not where we live, a little bit further.
And so most people stayed in their houses all day?
Yeah, they had to. You wouldn't see anyone on the street, it's too risky.
And what did you know what was happening outside from like were there people still reporting, and were you following it on resources?
I don't remember right now, but you could see what was happening.
Mm.
The choppers, the missiles, the bullets, the gunshots. You could hear everything.
Do you remember in those moments, like what you and your family were thinking?
I don't think we were that concerned. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if my dad or mom were concerned because obviously they're not going to show it to us, but I don't think I was thinking about it that much. I wasn't thinking about it that much. I don't know why.
Do you think that living through a war zone, in a war zone and through a war period, do you think that you and maybe your family or your friends, or maybe you can only speak for yourself, but do you think that you become like desensitized to death or I don't know, violence? Like how did you, maybe also the question is, how did you cope with all these things that were happening?
Let me think. Like after hearing about it that much, it kind of becomes normal for you. But I don't think desensitized is the right word. You just get used to it. I mean, like it was a missile falls down on the street. Like after I went back like a year ago. Like a missile would, if a miss a year ago, nothing happened. When I wasn't there, like my parents used to tell me, like a missile would fall, like if no one would be there for like 15, 30 minutes, and then life is back to normal. No one would care because life has to go on. You can't just stay in fear, no matter the risk.
So what has stayed open in Aleppo? Most things are open still. Most
Like
schools are
right now,
most-
like right now, anything is available, like whatever you want. But before it wasn't like that. A lot of food places opened during the war, like random on the street, but that was about it.
And so things were closed temporarily, like schools or
Schools were never closed; it was always open, except for the like worst times when bombings happened and stuff. They would send us home early, but that was it. You still have to go to school.
And you said you went back a year ago?
Yeah,
When did you leave initially?
4 years ago.
And so what differences did you see between 2014 and 2017?
A lot. I mean, like when I left, around like maybe 9, 10, you would see no one on the streets. Everyone would be home. Like a year ago, it was completely different. People were on the street until after midnight. There were parties happening. Like cafes are always full. You wouldn't find a place. I would say life was back to normal, kind of. Still not the normal as before, but it was way better.
In terms of the city looking the same, though, does it look the same?
No, like where we live, like the center, it was like almost the same. But if you go a bit far, it was all destroyed, like bombed and stuff, bullet holes. I mean, we had bullets coming to our houses. If that happened, you can imagine what's gonna happen outside.
And you said that your family is still in Syria?
Yeah.
Why did they stay?
Because where would they go?
Why did they come to Armenia?
I came to Armenia because, like, during the bad times, we thought, what if things started going worse? We have to send my sister somewhere. Better send it to Sero, who's in Armenia, like then to a relative. That's the first reason I went out. Like to have someone on the outside in case something went bad.
So, sorry, let me rewind. I'm going out of order. You were in 11th grade when it started. So then by 2014, you were
I was
in
first year university.
medical school.
No.
You had already done dental, you had already done...
I was gonna do dental, but I didn't get to go to school because of the mark stuff. So I went to engineering.
So you were in your first year of engineering school. And then your parents decided, or you decided...
Like we had a discussion and we thought that was the best thing to do, so I did it.
Because you knew that you could go to university in Armenia?
Yeah.
Are you the oldest of your siblings?
No, I'm the middle one.
Okay. So in 2014, what was the situation like in Syria? Was it one of its worst moments?
Yeah, you could say that it was one of the worst moments. Like my senior year in high school, it was like the worst, I would say. But then it got a little bit better, and then it was back to worse. It was like fluctuating, going up and down.
What how are you measuring what's worse and what's not? By how many?
Like by the condition of the city, the availability of food, water, electricity, the amount of bombings happening, by that.
And so when you decided to leave in 2014, sorry, let me ask you. So in your house, it was you, your brother, your sister, and your parents.
And my grandma.
And your grandma. And so what was when did you start thinking about potentially coming to Armenia?
It was just a random night. My dad suggested it. I was like, okay, that sounds right, so I'll do it. It just happened like that.
Did anything happen, like, to anybody you know or to your family that made you decide, like, someone should be on the outside in case something happens again?
Like, no, because like at that time, like a lot of people were leaving. We were considering it, but didn't want to really leave. Like we thought it was better to have someone, like as I said, if things went bad, just to like send my sister or whatever, just to go to him.
Had many of your friends or family already left for other countries at this point?
Yeah. Like my friends were like getting lesser by the minute, fewer, lesser, I don't know.
Leaving to other countries?
Yeah.
Mostly Armenia?
Armenia, Canada, Lebanon, Australia.
And so, what was the process like when you decided to come to Armenia? Like, what were the things you had to get? What did you have to prepare to leave Syria?
Just my bag.
Okay, but in terms of like traveling, did you go by plane or by bus?
No, like we didn't have an airport. You couldn't fly because they would bring the airplane down. Just went to Beirut and then you would fly to here. It was like that. It was very hard and tiring, but you had to do it.
So what was the journey like from Aleppo to Beirut?
Very long. My grandma came with me because she was afraid. I don't know why. But it was very long and tiring. Like they would stop you on the road. You had to give them money for no reason, like the soldiers. And that's it.
Who's there?
The government. It was kind of a mess, so no one would care. They would like take your ID. They would like give me money, so I give this to you back. It was like that. It was normal, just normal stuff.
And on your bus, mostly Armenian or mostly?
No, like they were all Arabs. It was just me and my grandma.
Were they also trying to flee Syria? Did you think?
I don't think so. They were just going to Lebanon, coming back. I think.
Did you speak to anyone on the bus?
Not really.
How long was the journey? 2 days.
14 hours. I think.
And when you were stopped, was there ever a worry that something would happen?
There always was a worry, but like it was like 5% chance that something would happen. So you just don't care.
And how did you know this was the best way to go?
It was the only way to go. We didn't have any other choice.
And once you got to Beirut, you just went to the airport and got on the flight?
I just stayed there for a day, and then I came here.
And what, did you have a house here already, or what did you do?
No, like I had relatives here. I stayed with them in the beginning, and then I rented a place, and then I moved there.
And was it hard finding a house, or?
No, not really. It was easy.
Did any organizations help you resettle here?
Like help in like how help?
Provide aid in any way, whether it was informational aid or.
Like informational, no. Like my friends and my family did that, but like I received aid from organizations like money wise and food wise, but that was only for like 7 months. That was it. The first 7 months I stayed First year, let's say, I stayed alone. I received like 8, but that was it.
You stayed up with your grandma or alone?
No, I stayed alone at a hostel for a year, and then I moved to a house because my parents were gonna come.
So, okay, why did you stay? Why did you? Hold on. A couple of questions. First, why did you stay with your relatives? Why did you go to a hostel?
Like the first when I came, like it's my first day here. I can't.
Sorry, for 7 months you stayed in the hostel?
A year. I stayed in the hostel for a year. Yeah.
Wait, okay, why did you stay with your relatives that you had here?
Why I didn't stay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's more comfy when you're staying alone. When you have to like not worry about anyone in the house. And I didn't want to be a burden on them, so I wanted to stay alone.
Okay, and so then you said your parents were gonna come. Did they end up coming?
Yeah.
Oh, and your parents are here.
They were here for like a year, and then they went back.
Okay, when did your parents come to Armenia?
2016, I think. I was 16.
And
Or 15.
And did they look for jobs here? And did they?
My dad tried to do business, but it didn't work. That's why he went back. And now I'm alone.
And your mom went back with him?
My mom went back a year before him.
Oh, your dad stayed for 2 years?
Yeah.
And why did your mom go back?
Because my brother and sister are there, and my grandma, so she had to go.
The different grandma and the one that's here?
No, like my grandma came with me, but left like 4 months later, like 3 months later.
And then now both your parents left, and now who are you with?
Now my grandma is back here again, but she's leaving in 2 months.
Why did she come back?
To take care of me. She feels sorry for me.
And why is she doing that?
Like, I don't know. There's no point of her staying here.
Does she like living in Syria more?
She actually doesn't care where she lives. She just wants to be near her children, grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think it would be the same for her.
And is it easy for your family to go back and forth between Syria and Armenia?
Like now it is, because now the airport in Damascus is working. It's still relatively hard because you have to go from Damascus to Aleppo and back, but it's better than Beirut.
The airport in Aleppo is still closed. Was there ever an airport in Aleppo?
Yeah.
It's still closed.
Now it's closed because there's still the risk of them shooting it down if people like fly from there.
But from Damascus, there's no risk.
No.
And so what? I mean, I guess there are many levels of like difficulties living here. So I want to ask you, what do you think was the biggest difficulty for your parents when they were here? And then what was your biggest difficulty?
Like for them, maybe like having nothing to do. That was a difficulty, I would think. And for me, what was the biggest difficulty I had?
Sorry, as in have nothing to do, as in they tried to find work and they couldn't.
Yeah, I think that would be it. That's why they went back. For me, I think it was like the living alone part at first, like having to do everything by yourself, laundry, food. I think that was the only difficulty I've had. Nothing else.
How old were you when you got here?
18 or 19, I don't remember.
And did you immediately sign up for university?
Yeah. I came, gave the exams, and I was accepted. I was in, I mean.
What university did you go to?
The medical university, the Herati one.
And so now you've been studying there for 4 years?
4 years.
And how many more years do you have?
I have 2 more to get my diploma, and then I have to do the specialty.
And I can only imagine that, you know, living in a hostel for so many months, I mean, without family, maybe it was,
Hard?
hard. Well, so how did you make friends here? Did you have friends from Syria?
Yeah, I've had friends from Syria, and I made new friends from the university. But like, living alone being hard, I don't think that was a problem. Because like, I don't know, I'm more of a loner. I don't actually need a lot of people around me, so I was fine. I didn't have trouble.
What about being in a new country? Like not new. Had you been here before?
Yeah, twice.
Okay, so, I mean, but it was a new country because you had lived in another place your whole life.
Yeah.
So were there any differences or difficulties in being in a new country that
Like first, the language was kind of difficult because their Armenian is different than our Armenian, and then like the people were different. They were more. This may come off bad. They come off bad, but they're rude here, kind of. And like, this is simple, but me the transportation was weird for me at first because it was new. I didn't know much, and that's it.
Did you feel any discrimination like towards you or people treated you differently for being either a Syrian Armenian or a diaspora Armenian in general?
Like differently, yeah, but not in a bad way. Of course, they have to treat you differently because you are different after all.
And what do you think was the most rewarding part of being here and living here?
Being able to live alone, and then eventually, like, I'm gonna graduate in 2 years. I'm gonna be a doctor. I think that's gonna be the most rewarding part of it.
What kind of medicine do you want to practice?
I want to be a surgeon. I'm not sure what kind of surgeon yet, but just want to be a surgeon. I want to be in the action, doing stuff.
And do you know if it's going to be hard to find a place to work after you graduate?
It is going to be difficult. I know that, but I still have time to think about it. Of what I'm going to do, where I'm going to do. I'll figure it out.
Do you think you want to practice in Armenia?
I would if I find a good job. If not, I don't think I'm staying here.
Where would you go, do you think?
I might go back, or I might try the US or Canada. I'm not sure yet.
Is your family fine now? Are they pretty safe back
Yeah.
in Syria?
The danger is not as much as before, like it's way less. So they're pretty safe.
And I forgot to ask you, like, what were some of the things that your family would tell you while they were still in Syria that was going on? Like, did it get worse when you left?
Yeah, it got worse when I left. There was a while it was really bad again. There was, like, when I was there, like, there was one time we didn't have, like, internet for 2 months, so we were disconnected from the outside world. And then they used to cut it again a lot. But the thing they told me, like, I don't know, it was more of the same thing. Bombings, people dying, no food, no electricity, no water. It was that.
Did they, were you scared that something was going to happen to them?
I mean, of course. Like, I wouldn't know what I would do if something would happen to them if I was here. Me here and them there. Like, that was like my worst fear. That's the only fear I had.
But now has that kind of subsided?
Yeah.
Do you ever have like memories of, or like nightmares or anything like that?
No, never.
I was gonna ask you another question. How do you think? Okay, we spoke about how the Armenian community, a lot of them have left from Syria. Do you think that the Armenian community will become stronger again and will be able to rebuild itself?
Not as strong as before, but it'll probably go back to be bigger. I would assume. I'm still not sure because I don't see any hopes of people going back. No one wants to go back. Probably the people there will like make it happen. Will make it work.
Do you think the Armenian community has changed in any way in Syria?
Like how changed?
I don't know.
I think it's still the same. Only people got closer. The two like before it was like maybe this it was bad because like the AGBU and the other like big school there was kind of a rivalry, so people really didn't like each other. But now I think that's gone. I think that doesn't exist anymore. So I think that would help in rebuilding the community and culture back.
Yeah. I think those people who have stayed there, the Armenians who have stayed there, have been able to preserve
Yeah.
the Armenian community.
Yeah, they have. It was still the same, but on a like smaller count. I don't know how to put it. I forgot the word. On a smaller scale. On a smaller scale.
Um, and living here in Armenia, do you think that there's anything that like the outside diaspora can do or other organizations maybe to aid Syrian Armenians here in Armenia? Like, what do you think people would need here?
I think the biggest problem for staying here is like the place of staying, because it's not that cheap, and if you work, you don't get that much money. I think that's the biggest problem. And the other secondary stuff like the job, the food, the whatever there is. I think that would be a big help for the community here.
Do you think the war is going to end anytime soon?
I hope it does, but I don't think it will. It's gonna go on. I don't know how long.
And I wanted to ask you where you see yourself in 5 years, but it seems like you don't know.
In 5 years, I'm probably gonna be still studying because I still have a long way to go. But I would probably still be here, doing my specialty here. And then after that, I don't know. It's still blur. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Maybe related to identity. So, why do you choose to use English for this interview rather than Armenian or Arabic?
Why did I choose English? Oh, that's a good question. Well, this may be bad, but my Armenian talking skills aren't that good. I don't know why. And plus, I took a lot of English classes in Syria, so my English is pretty good. And when I came here, my English got even better, so I would feel more comfortable and feel like it's more easy to speak in English than in other languages.
How about Arabic?
My Arabic is really good too. Like, this may even sound worse, but like my strongest language is Arabic, then English, then Armenian. I don't know why. That's why I chose English.
So, how's your Muslim friends? They're left now. Your Muslim friends.
Yeah.
How's their life now?
How's their life?
Maybe they go to different countries or they still in.
I didn't have much Muslim friends from school. I only had one girl, but then at university I met a bunch of people. But most of them are still in Syria.
Still in Syria?
Yeah. I don't think they plan on moving out.
Not.
No, they're gonna stay there.
Why?
Oh, it's their home. Like they're not like Armenians. We have Armenia. It's ours. But for them it's Syria. They have nowhere else to go. That's why they wouldn't move.
You told me that sometimes like no electricity or like no food, no water.
Mhm.
But how about internet? Because you said like people can get some information from like Facebook to know like food data or also like social media. So can people like still use internet during the war?
Like during the war, there was a while we didn't have internet, like at all. We were just disconnected from the outside world. But now it's better. Sometimes they don't have it, but most of the time they do.
You also mentioned that some of your friends went to Canada or went to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the process to go to Canada, Australia? Do they need to apply some
It's a
visa?
mission. Like you have to like prepare your papers. I don't know. I haven't done it. You have to give it to like it's an organization, and they have to like you have to have a. Sponsor. You have to have a sponsor in Canada.
So, like relatives?
Yeah, relatives like Canadians. They have to like be like responsible for you there, and then you just wait until they call you. It was like that.
So you said you have some relatives in Armenia.
Yes.
So when did your relative came to Armenia?
My cousins came like 2 years before me, 2-3 years before me, and I have local relatives here too.
Yeah, I mean like a local relative.
Like local Armenians. I have relatives too like that here.
I mean, was it also from Eastern Turkey?
No, they were born here. They grew up here. Like my relatives from my Armenian relatives here.
I mean, their ancestors are originally from.
Yeah, I think so.
Also, another question you live here and you study here, and then how about your like the life expenses and your school tuition? Do you get scholarships? Or?
Like my school tuition, because we're Syrians, like we pay half the price of the tuition, and the AGBU pays maybe 65-70% of what we pay. So I end up not paying that much, which really helps.
So like if one of your dream can come true, what do you want? What do you want to be? Like one of your dream can come true.
Yeah.
Like what things do you want to let it come true?
I want to be like a really successful surgeon.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's my biggest dream, which I'm working on making it happen.
So also a question. So for this Syrian war, do you think like different group of people like in the same country, do you think that's another cause of this war?
Yeah, because like right now, most of the opposition is they're not even Syrians. They're from outside. I don't know from where. Chechnya, Morocco, just a bunch of people fighting for money.
It's mostly
Yeah.
for money.
Yeah. The people fighting is for the money, but the agenda, I don't know what the agenda is.
Okay.
I'm seeing just the people fighting in Syria, like against the government. They're not Syrians mostly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it. Do you have citizenship here in Armenia?
No.
And so what is the status that you're living under now? Is it refugee status?
No, just like a student here, I would say.
And are you also working in addition to studying?
No, just studying.
And so, in terms of like living expenses, are your parents helping you from Syria?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. The interviews go so quickly when you do them in English that I'm like, why don't I have so many more questions? But because with Ani they take like 2 hours each.
This took quite a while.
You think so?
Yeah.
Maybe this is a quick one. Do you? Yeah, go ahead. Ask.
So how's your parents the income? Like how do they now get their income in Syria?
My dad started a job, a work, like on a smaller scale, but it's going slowly. It's like that.
So is that your father came to Armenia and wanted to do some business?
Mm-hmm.
Like what type of business?
Tried to open a chips factory, like potato, corn chips.
Corn chips.
Chips like open.
Potato chips.
Oh.
Okay. So yeah, he tried to start that, but it didn't work out, so he just left.
Why did he choose to do the corn chips?
I don't know. He came and he thought it was the most convenient to do it, so he did that. Well,
But didn't he say, isn't he a civil engineer?
yeah,
And so he didn't want to do engineering here, he couldn't do engineering here?
like he hasn't worked in his field for a long time. That's why he didn't.
What business does he have in Syria?
A merchant. He's like a merchant. Like foods and stuff, frozen, that kind of stuff.
Question. What activities have you participated in here in Armenia? Have you joined any basketball teams? Have you participated in any other Armenian activities?
I've only played for the university's team, and it's been like 2 years I'm playing for the league that's gonna happen here, but that's it. I haven't done anything else.
What league is that?
So basketball league of Armenia.
And is that team mostly local Armenians?
Like last year, the team I played with, it was Artik. It was a village. I played with them. They were all Armenians, except for me and my friend that were in the university. He's American too. It was just us, and the rest were Armenians. But this year, it's like a team that came from Lebanon. I'm gonna play with them. They're mostly like Syrians there.
Armenians, have throughout our history been moved so many times, or have not been moved, but they've moved and they've had to create new lives for themselves from zero, as you said before. And the Syrian community, they came from historic Armenia to Syria, and now they're moving again.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2 questions on that. One, does it feel like you've returned to your homeland, even though the lands that your family are from are in Turkey now? And the second question is,
Wow.
I forgot, it's the first answer to that one, that's the second one.
The first question is, I don't really feel that I came back home. Because as I said, I feel that my home is back in Syria. It's not that I don't feel home, but I don't know, I can't explain it. I just feel this is a stop for me, and then I'm gonna go somewhere else again.
Do you think that the Syrian Armenians, for the most part here, have been able to create new lives for themselves and
The people who moved from Syria,
Yeah.
like a lot of people I know, like they have good jobs and stuff. I would say they were successful in that. They made it.
Do you think there's any, in your opinion, any quality of Armenians that makes them able to, restart new lives themselves and be successful wherever they go?
I don't think this is an Armenian thing. It's like this is something that you have to do to survive. I think that everyone in the world has this. Like if you were forced to move from your home, from your work, like you have to go somewhere else and you have to start something. So I don't think that's an Armenian thing.
Okay, the last question that I wanted to ask you was, I don't know, like, okay, we're the same age and you have lived through a war. Like, do you think, I don't even know how to phrase this, do you think of that sometimes? Or do you think of the fact that you've seen so much at such a young age, and is that part of your identity that you lived through a war?
Like, honestly, no. I don't feel that different because I haven't seen that much stuff. I don't know, my dad almost provided us with everything, so I didn't like feel the war. But my brother has definitely seen a lot of stuff more than me, so for me, I don't feel the difference. I feel like the same.
Did it feel like a war to you while you were there?
Yeah, obviously, but I don't feel that I'm traumatized of that. I don't even have like bad memories of it. It's all gone.
Why did your brother see more? Because he stayed there longer?
No, because I don't know, it's just his luck. Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Did you ask whether the Civil War is the same as the genocide? I didn't ask that. I didn't know for sure. I can ask that one. I mean, he just didn't talk much about the genocide, so that's why. Do you see a similarity at all, or does your family ever talk about, or your friends, about how this fate is the same fate as 100 years ago for Armenians? Does anyone make comparisons, or do you see any?
People sometimes do, but I don't see relevance. It's not related. It was just war. It was something that happened, and we happened to be a part of that country, so we happened to like live through it. I don't think it was like targeted for us to make us move again. It's just my opinion.
Do you think in any way that like more coverage of what's happening to Armenians in Syria could help in any way? Because they are a minority in Syria, and so do you think that perhaps more coverage on abuses against them could help aid them or stop any of the violence?
It definitely would, but we're still people of the same country, and there are minorities like which their community is less than us. I don't know if I չեմ գիտեր ճիշտ խոսեցան է. I mean, it would help, but I don't think it's needed. Not needed, but why should we get to be special?
How do you think it would help?
We would get more help by like saying that we're a minority, we're being abused, playing the victim.
But are the Armenians being abused in Syria for being Armenian?
No, on the contrary. Like people like us more because we're Armenian. They help us more because we're Armenian.
Did you ever feel like a minority in Syria?
Never.
And do you think that? So sorry. Why do you think it would help them more? You're saying just playing the role would help.
Yeah.
Sorry. What kinds of things would be beneficial to highlight if reports like that were to be written?
I don't know.
Just like deaths of Armenians?
Yeah, just count to death that we're a minority, we're being killed off, we're being sent off of our homes, that kind of
Do
stuff.
you think in any way that Aleppo was targeted
Yeah,
because there are a lot of Armenians?
no. I mean, Aleppo was targeted because it was the biggest industrial country in Syria. That was targeted, that was why it was targeted, not because of Armenians.
But one thing you just said was that, kind of being forced to move. And you mentioned that a lot of the Muslims are not moving.
Yeah,
So
because they have nowhere else to go.
nowhere else to go. But do you think that they want to?
If they had the chance, they would, I would think.
Oh, okay. So you don't think that's safer, do you think it's safer in any way for Muslims to stay in the country than for non-Muslims?
No, it's the same in my opinion. The risk is equal to both sides.
Were you here in Armenia during the events in April with Nikol Pashinyan?
Yeah.
And when that all began, and the reason I ask this is because there was a revolution in Lebanon and then in Syria,
Yeah.
and then it all escalated to what it became. Did you ever think anything of what was happening in Armenia to be that?
Yeah. I had that thing that it's gonna escalate to that, and we're gonna be screwed again.
Did anyone else that you spoke with share that thought?
I spoke to a taxi driver once. He got pissed again. That was it. I didn't tell it to anyone else.
And so you thought that maybe you would have to go back to Syria, or did you?
I didn't know what I was gonna do if that happened, honestly.
So did you join in the?
No.
No. You stayed away from it.
Yeah.
Because of the history.
Because of what I went through. Because I thought it was gonna be like the same, so I didn't participate.
And then when it wasn't the same, what did you feel?
I don't know. I felt like this is what a normal revolution looks like. It always should be like that. That was it.
Yeah.
So, personally for me, I'm a total foreigner in Armenia, and the first time I come here, I really feel shocked that Armenians, especially Armenian diaspora, has very, very strong Armenian identity. So, in your opinion, what is the reason for that?
That the diaspora has more Armenian.
Very strong Armenian identity.
Oh, because when you live here, you don't have the fear of losing your Armenian identity. So you don't care, you don't do anything about it. But when you live outside, you always have that constant fear of, I'm gonna forget my Armenian, I'm gonna lose my identity. So, like, you work hard to preserve it. That's why it's stronger in us, I would think.
No, I mean comparing with different other races, Armenia has more. Armenian diaspora has more identity than other races of diaspora.
Oh, that's my opinion on that. So I don't think I would be able to answer that question because I don't know what to think about it.
Okay, I think I have no more questions for you. So, do you have anything that you want to say that I didn't ask you that you'd like to add?
No, I don't think that.
Okay. Thank you, Sero.